When I was a child, I always asked the same question: where is my mother? My father never answered with anger, but his eyes became quiet. He would look away and say, "She had to go." I didn't understand those words. I only knew that she wasn't there. I lived with my father in a small house near the edge of the city. It was just the two of us. He cooked, he cleaned, he helped me with school. He was quiet, strong, and kind. Every night he kissed my forehead and said, "You are my whole world, Lily." I smiled, but part of me still wondered why my world wasn't complete. At school, other children talked about their moms. "My mom made this sandwich," or "My mom reads to me at night." I smiled and said nothing. I didn't want them to know I didn't have a mom. I felt like I was missing a piece of a puzzle, and no one could help me find it. Sometimes I imagined her. I closed my eyes and tried to see her face, but nothing came. I was too young when she left. I had no pictures, no memories, just a few words and the silence that always followed. One day I asked again, "Daddy, will she ever come back?" He was washing dishes. He stopped, put the plate down, and looked at me. "I don't know," he said, "but you don't need to wait. You have me." I nodded, but in my heart, I was still waiting. At night, I sat by the window and watched the stars. I pretended my mother was somewhere out there, looking at the same sky. Maybe she missed me too. Maybe one day she would return with a smile and say, "I'm sorry, Lily, but for now, it was just me and my father." In our living room, there were many pictures. Photos of my father fishing, laughing with his friends, standing in front of the old house. There was even one of me as a baby, wrapped in a yellow blanket. But there was no photo of my mother. Not one. I asked once, "Daddy, do we have a picture of her?" He didn't look at me. He just said, "No, Lily, I don't think we do." I found that hard to believe. How could someone live with us, love us, and then disappear without a single image? I searched when he was not home. I looked through drawers, boxers in the closet, even behind books on the shelf, but I found nothing. It was like she had been erased, not just from the house, but from the story of our life. At school, we had to bring a photo for a project called My Family. I brought one of my dad and me at the park. My teacher looked at it and asked kindly, "And your mom?" I just smiled and said, "She's not in the picture." That was true. Sometimes I wondered if I imagined her. Maybe I was just a girl with a father and nothing was missing. But then a dream would come. A woman with soft hands, brushing my hair, singing a song I didn't know. I always woke up crying. My heart remembered something my mind had forgotten. I tried to draw her once. I used crayons and a clean white paper. I gave her long hair and warm eyes. I drew her holding my hand. When my father saw the drawing, he smiled, but his eyes looked sad. "She would have loved that," he whispered, and then he walked away. That night, I put the drawing under my pillow. I didn't have a photo, but I had a dream, a picture in my mind, and for now, that was enough. My father was a good man. He worked hard, came home every evening, and always made time for me. But there were things he never said, things I wanted to hear, but didn't know how to ask. He never told me why she left. He never told me what kind of person she was. I didn't know if she liked music or books, if she laughed loudly or spoke softly. All I knew was that she left one morning and never came back. One day I found an old box in the kitchen cabinet. Inside were some papers, receipts, and a small notebook. On the first page, in my father's handwriting, were the words, "For Lily, when she is ready." I froze. My heart beat faster. Was this about her? I wanted to read it, but something held me back. I put it back where I found it. I wasn't ready. Not yet. At dinner that night, I watched my father carefully. He looked tired but peaceful. "Daddy," I said, "what was Mom's favorite color?" He looked up, surprised. Then he smiled. "Green," he said, "like the leaves in spring." It was the first personal thing I had ever heard about her. I wrote it in my notebook. Her favorite color was green. From that day, I started asking more questions, little by little. I asked if she liked tea or coffee, if she liked to sing or dance. He answered some, avoided others. I didn't push, I just collected the pieces. Still, there was so much silence, like a locked door that I couldn't open, and I began to wonder, was he protecting her or protecting me? Some nights I lay awake thinking about all the things he kept inside, not because he didn't care, but because maybe the truth was too heavy. Maybe he was afraid I wouldn't understand. But I wanted to know. I needed to know. Because even a broken story is better than no story at all. It was a rainy afternoon. The sky was gray, and the sound of water hitting the windows filled the house. My father was out buying groceries, and I was in his room looking for an old book he once read to me when I was little. I opened the bottom drawer of his desk. Inside were papers, old bills, and a box of pens. As I moved things around, I saw something strange, a folded envelope with my name on it. Lily, just that. No stamp, no date, just my name and my mother's handwriting. My hands began to shake. I sat on the floor and stared at it. I wasn't sure if I should open it. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe I wasn't supposed to see it, but my curiosity was louder than my fear. I opened it slowly. The paper inside was yellowed with time, but the ink was clear. It began, "My sweet Lily, if you are reading this, it means your father kept his promise. I asked him to give you this only when you are ready. I hope that day is today." I read every word like it was a drop of water in the desert. She explained things I never knew, that she had been sick, that she didn't want to leave but had to for reasons she couldn't fully explain when I was small. She said she loved me every day, every hour, even from far away. Tears fell onto the paper. She described my laugh when I was a baby. She said I liked to sleep holding her finger, that I always looked at the stars like I could hear them. She ended the letter with, "You are brave, you are loved, and I never forgot you." When my father returned, I was still on the floor, the letter in my hands. He didn't say a word. He just sat beside me and put his arm around my shoulder. We stayed like that for a long time, and in the silence, I finally felt understood. After I read the letter, something changed inside me. The pain was still there, but now it had a voice. I knew the truth was not simple, and love could be real even when someone is gone. I had questions, yes, but I also had a piece of her, her words. That night, I asked my father if we could talk. We sat at the kitchen table, just the two of us, with warm tea and quiet hearts. I asked him why he never gave me the letter before. He looked down at his cup and said, "I was waiting for the day you'd be ready. The day you'd ask, not with anger, but with love." I nodded. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. We talked for hours. He told me about the early days, how my mother used to sing to me, how they danced in the kitchen when I was a baby. He said she had a soft voice and always smelled like oranges. I smiled. Those were the details I had been longing for. Then he opened a box I had never seen before. Inside were small things: a silver bracelet, a photo of the three of us when I was a baby, a letter she wrote to him the night she left. "These are hers," he said. "I kept them for you." I touched each item with care. They weren't just objects, they were memories, tiny bridges between her world and mine. I held the bracelet against my wrist. It was too big now, but it felt warm, like a hug that had waited years to arrive. Later that night, I placed the photo on my desk. Her face was kind, her eyes familiar. I didn't feel empty anymore. I felt full, full of stories, full of love, full of her. She may not have stayed, but she left pieces of herself behind. And now I was ready to carry them with me. Weeks passed, but the feeling of that day stayed with me. I read the letter many times, always slowly, as if each word needed space to live inside me. I began to write back, not to send, just to speak. "Dear Mom," I would begin, and then let my heart speak. I wrote about school, about Dad, about how I used to dream of her face. I told her I forgave her, not because it was easy, but because I finally understood. Life is full of choices we don't always want to make, and sometimes love means letting go. One evening, I walked to the park near our home. The sun was low, painting the sky in soft gold. I sat on a bench and looked at the sky, the same sky I used to stare at when I was small, wishing she could see it too. Now, I imagined she was part of it. Children ran nearby. A little girl laughed as she held her father's hand. I smiled. My childhood wasn't perfect, but I was never alone. My father stayed. He gave me strength, kindness, and quiet love. And now I had something else, a connection to a woman I never really knew, but always carried in my heart. When I got home, I took the bracelet from the box and wore it for the first time. It still felt warm, like memory, like hope. I stood in front of the mirror and saw myself, not the girl without a mother, not the girl with questions. I saw a young woman with stories, strength, and a heart that had waited and healed. I picked up my pen and wrote one final line in my notebook. "I am not broken. I am whole, made from love, from loss, and from the waiting." And that, finally, was enough.